Speaking of the Cavs, though, that is where we are going to start today, as Donovan Mitchell and Kenny Atkinson have officially punched their tickets to the Bay for the All-Star game. Kenny Atkinson with the Cavaliers securing the best record in the Eastern Conference in the first half of the season. They will be the coaching staff for 2 of the 4 teams in the whole new All-Star format, which is wonky and whatever. But Donovan Mitchell was named an All-Star starter alongside Jalen Brunson, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jason Tatum, and Karl Anthony Towns. I do want to point out that Darius Garland finished in the top 5 in both the media vote and the player vote. Evan Mobley also in the top 5 in both media and player votes. So my question to you guys will start with this. The Cavs got 1 starter. Did they get the right 1 starter?
I think they got the right starter. I mean, if there was only going to be one, it had to be Donovan Mitchell.
Interesting question, yeah.
He's having the best season. He's their best player still. So I think they got that right. Do you guys agree?
You know, it's funny because when Mike asked the question, I was initially thinking that he was asking the question between Darius and Donovan, but he didn't say that. It was because I think you can make the case that Evan Mobley.
You could.
Like, if you asked who's the MVP of the Cavs, I think you can make an argument for Mobley. I don't know if that's correct, but I think you could make that argument.
I think the argument is who's the second best player right now on the Cavs? Is it Garland or is it Mobley? I think that's the question.
I think it's Mobley.
Me too.
I think Mobley will soon be the best player on this team.
I think that's where they're trending.
That's the way it's.
Yeah, if he continues to grow and make steps like he has.
When you're having, but see, here's the thing: it's an all-star thing, so it's not just who's the best player.
Right.
It's who the fans want to see.
Right.
Yeah, and it's also at that position.
And right now, the fans still want to see Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell's the biggest name of all of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
And so Donovan, eventually maybe Darius becomes more of a household name. Maybe Evan becomes more of a household name. But right now, the star on this team is Donovan Mitchell. So if you're going to get one all-star starter, it's going to be Donovan Mitchell. Now, you can make an argument, is somebody else more worthy? But when it's a game for the fans and the fans are involved in the voting, this is what you get.
Yeah, and I have no problem with it. I guess another question, Mike, is are Garland and Mobley going to be added to the team?
And that is the next question.
Mike, I think it's a no-brainer. I think the biggest thing that that, in my opinion, helps get Garland into the All-Star game is the fact that I always forget what ball. It's LaMelo Ball, right?
Correct.
Yep.
That LaMelo Ball, because LaMelo Ball had been leading the fan voting, I thought, at guard. Or
He
second.
won the fan vote.
Yes, he was.
He did, but he didn't get in as a starter.
No, because he was
The fan,
7th
the media,
and 9th in the fan and the media vote.
which, which, by the way, is a huge disconnect between who the fans think is the best player.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that on the show. The fans love his game, but it's not transferable to what the media and what the players would say.
Right. Fans like the highlight film that he is.
Right.
And obviously he's very talented, but he's not a winning player. And now my guess is because of how that went down, I don't even think he's going to make the All-Star team, which opens up a guard spot for Darius.
Not only that, but also every year there's guys who pull out. There's guys are going to get hurt between now and then. Guys are going to want to go to Cancun between now and then.
Right.
The fact that it's San Francisco, cold weather cities, guys are typically bailing all the time.
But San Francisco is not a warm weather city.
It's not warm. It's not the beach.
No, but it's not Vegas. It's not Miami.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's not Phoenix. It's not Indianapolis.
Milwaukee.
It's
right.
not Indianapolis.
It's in the middle.
Milwaukee.
Yeah.
So
when you have Milwaukee, basically by the time the game starts, you're down to the 3rd team All-Stars.
That's right.
I still believe the Cavs will wind up with 4. I do.
Really?
Yeah. Now they've dropped a couple games here because my thought was if you get to 50 wins at the break, you're going to get 4, and they've dropped a couple that I didn't see coming with the way that they were rolling. So it may only be 3. They're definitely going to get 3. Whether it's guys added initially as bench guys, whether it's guys added, maybe Jarrett gets added as guys pull out, that sort of thing. But I think they'll for sure get 3.
It's possible that Jarrett gets in because Evan Mobley can't play.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And obviously they can't rush him back.
No, calves are no joke. Like, people hear calf and kind of dismiss it. Calves, you got to be really careful with calves.
Sure.
Because it'll linger all year long. If you come back too soon, it could wreck your entire year. It can lead to Achilles if you mess around with it. Calf strains are no joke, so they need to be very, very cautious.
He's out tonight, by the way.
Yeah.
Officially already ruled out.
And just like any other muscle injury, if you come back too soon and you tweak it again, then it's worse. It's easier to tweak it once you've already hurt it.
Calf strains are usually measured in weeks, not days.
Yeah, I wouldn't. When is the All-Star game? It's like a month, right?
It's mid-February.
Oh,
Yeah.
Couple weeks.
That's what knocked Donovan out at the end of last year.
Right.
I remember talking to him about it, and he was trying to come back. I'm like, you can't come back. Like, this is a weeks-long thing. It's the whole Kevin Durant when he blew out his Achilles was trying to come back from a calf.
Right.
So you can't mess with these things.
It's tough. Mike, do you agree? You think they'll get 4? I'm hopeful they'll get 4. I just don't know.
I think 3's a certainty. And I look at it, and I have the numbers up in front of me, the official full voting, the way the players and the media voted for both Evan and Darius, to me, those guys are essentially locks.
Right.
Yeah.
Jarrett, I think, is an injury replacement guy, or if someone doesn't want to go, he could slide in. I don't think they're getting 4 off the initial 12-person roster.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree
However,
with that.
can we mention 12-person roster real quick? Why do NBA teams have 15-player rosters, but the All-Star games
Yeah,
are
it's
12?
Yeah, I've always wondered
It's
that.
so stupid.
It's- I think because if you have 15, you feel obligated to play for 15.
That's true.
And then
Good point.
And then the players that the fans really want to see for a bulk of the game don't get as much time.
But a lot of those guys don't want to play.
But they're
heavy.
now
No, I
doing
know they
this-
don't. I know they
they're
don't.
now doing this 3 teams of 8.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask Mike.
I have no
don't
idea.
know.
Yeah.
And
I have
don't
no
either.
idea what they're doing
So,
this
Mike,
year.
my question to you is, I don't understand the new format. To me, if you're going to be playing multiple games, and that's what it's going to be, right?
Yeah.
Then you need more players.
So they have 3 teams of 8.
Yeah, they could have
divided
easily
by
done
by
3
the
of
2
10.
All-Star teams.
Yeah.
And then they have the winner of the sophomore rookie Rising Stars Challenge is the 4th team in there.
Lord.
Yeah,
And they're quick game. Their games to 40. So they're hoping that the quicker
They're
game.
grabbing at straws here.
Yeah,
but
it's a disaster. It could
The whole
end up being
weekend is a
cool,
debacle.
but I don't,
it is.
I don't like
it
it.
went from one of my favorite sports weekends
totally agree.
Yeah.
to one that I couldn't care
Yeah,
less about.
I totally agree. Slam dunk sucks.
Awful.
The game sucks.
Do you guys know the 3 guys who have already committed to the slam dunk contest?
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I haven't
dude,
heard.
Guy from
Jay,
the Buck-
Jason, don't say. Hold on.
Sorry.
I'm gonna ask Bull and Jay. I'm gonna give you the 3 names. You tell me if you've ever heard of these guys.
Okay.
Or if
That's-
they're made up. So I'll give you 5
Well,
names.
Yeah.
You're going to give us 5?
I'll give you 5. You,
That's
2 of them are
awful.
made up.
That's
yeah.
awful.
Okay, Andre Jackson Jr.
That's a real name.
He is real. He played. Do you know what team
No,
he
you
plays
give
for?
me a chance. I might have said fake, but go ahead, Mike.
Do you know what team he plays
His
for?
boys
No
call him
idea.
Dre.
No idea.
He's
He
in the.
plays for
he's
the
a-
Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a bench guy in the Bucks.
Yeah.
Stephon Castle.
That's fake.
He's real.
Really?
He is real. He was a top 5 pick in this year's NBA lottery.
I couldn't tell you what team he's on, but I know the name sounded familiar.
He's on the San Antonio Spurs.
Okay.
Julius. That's
Fake.
made up.
That's
I was
fake.
trying to make it up on the fly. I'll just give you the third one. The third one is
Caesar.
Matis Buzelli.
Who's
Never
going to
heard.
watch that? Like, you know what I would rather see? I would rather see the dunk specialists, non-NBA players.
The trampoline guys.
No.
Like the professional dunker.
The professional dunkers.
okay.
Those guys, I can't take my eyes off of.
I would rather see Dirk Nowitzki wrestle an alligator than watch that. I mean,
I would watch that too.
Listen, we make such a big deal in all these sports about guys making the All-Star. The only thing I even watch anymore is the baseball All-Star game.
I do too.
Even the home run derby has become tiresome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
It's
is.
too long.
Yeah.
And they make these things long because they want to get all their commercials in. I get it, but it's so boring.
I
all of it.
agree. I agree 100%.
I mean,
And
when we
used-
were
I used to-
kids, and obviously, the NBA All-Star game was amazing.
It was
unbelievable.
Because those guys played defense. They wanted to win.
When Michael Jordan was the game's best player. And one of the mind-blowing things about the dunk contest, and you can point directly to LeBron James. To this,
yeah.
When the best players decided that they had more to lose than to win by
Right.
doing it, it became absolute
Garbage.
garbage,
Right.
trash.
Yeah.
And I kind of blame LeBron for that. Like, LeBron never competing in a slam dunk contest is
Criminal.
egregious.
He should be brought up on charges.
It's a mark,
misdemeanor.
It's one of the
Yes.
few marks on
Yes.
his resume.
And with the three-point contest, like, again, when it first started, the three-point contest, it was exciting because you didn't shoot a lot of threes in those days.
Yeah,
Now the whole game is threes. So what's the
Yeah,
point
no,
of the three-point?
you're right.
They should have like
You're
a
right.
half-court shooting contest now. That would be more
Yeah.
interesting.
I want to mention one more thing on the All-Star, then we can move on. But Kenny Atkinson is one of the 4 head coaches. His staff, because of their #1 record, and you can't do it 2 years in a row, so if they have the best record next year, they won't be eligible to do it again. His staff is also going out to Golden State, and one of his assistants will get a chance to coach one of the other 4 teams.
Presumably that'll be Johnny Bryant.
I would assume it's Johnny Bryant, too, who's not been a head coach yet. But from a coaching growth standpoint, I guess, and Jason, I'll start with you on this. I know it's a meaningless all-star game, and you're not going to get these guys to play hard, but just the experience the rest of his staff can gain from being around some of these elite talents and having this opportunity, I think it's pretty cool and a really good chance for them to grow as a staff and pick up a few things.
Yeah, it's a good experience to be around those guys. I don't know how much career growth comes out of it. I don't know if Johnny Bryant ever coached a summer league team. I don't know. I think that's a good experience for the guys who are really probably 2 or 3 steps away.
Right.
And that's their first exposure to running things and dealing with media and dealing with timeouts and drawing up plays and that sort of thing. But it's just a good experience for Johnny and the Cavs staff to just be around stars of that level and get inside their heads for a weekend and see how they think and how they operate. It's certainly not a bad thing.
Do you want to throw out ideas that could make this weekend better?
Sure, and then we'll talk about LeBron.
So one way to make it better is each team in the All-Star game has to play at all times someone that they select from the stands.
Oh, that would be cool.
That'd be
Love that.
awesome.
Yeah.
So
That'd be
now
awesome.
there's no tryouts. The captain of the team gets to walk through and take a look and say, "I want you." And so he is and maybe each team picks 3, but the rule is you have to have a fan in the game at all times.
And they have to take a shot every 2.5 minutes. Because
you can't
just
lock
play
them out.
You can't just play 4-on-4.
Right, you're right, yeah.
They got to take a shot every 2 minutes.
What if the fan passes out?
It'd be great.
Then
it'd
bring
be
in another
great-
fan.
Yeah, but it'd be great video. You'd have to sign a waiver.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't blink. In
No,
fact, if
that'd
you,
be awesome.
I would change my weekend plans
Yeah.
to make sure I was home to watch this.
That would be worth watching.
That
yes.
was like my golden at bat rule. You know,
Yes.
with baseball.
Absolutely.
Well, you know what? You be a golden at bat when the lineup comes back on. You get to pick one person from the stands to come in and be the
And
player.
that could be epic. I mean, because, some guys pass the look test but have never dribbled a basketball.
That's true.
Right.
Other guys look like schleps in street clothes, but they might be able to ball. They can handle. They can shoot. Or whatever. So I would love that. I would watch. The dunk competition, which is really just dead to me. I already gave my idea. I would say the NBA players don't want to do it, clearly. We're taking guys that we don't even know are real players. Let's just open it up to the top 5 that everybody kind of thinks are the best dunkers in the world. And we know who they are. They're on YouTube. We've seen them. I'll watch that because those dunks are entertaining. And, you see a 5'8" guy do a 360 reverse or whatever. I'd watch that.
Yeah.
So that's how I would make the All-Star game
And if
watchable.
whoever wins gets a guaranteed NBA contract. How about that?
Oh, what wins the dunk contest?
Yeah.
Oh, now that would be
If
it.
you're doing these dunkers.
A
right.
10-day contract with whom? Where are you getting?
Whatever team they want.
Wow. So if he says, I want to go to the Cavs.
Yeah, they can go to the Cavs, yeah.
Wow.
That's never happened.
At whose expense?
None of this stuff is happening, but
No, it's
all
not.
of it is more interesting than what they're actually
I know.
doing.
Yeah, because now there's something really, really, really on the line and at stake. And if you told these guys who all would love to play in the NBA,
Of course.
if you told these guys that the winner of the dunk contest would get a 10-day contract with the team, hell yeah, they
awesome.
would pull out all their
Yeah,
best
yeah.
stuff.
How about we do this just to make it more interesting? The 3-point shootout, the 3-point contest. It's not Steph. It's not DG. It's the 10 worst 3-point shooters in the NBA. Guys that don't shoot.
Yeah, but that's
threes.
just going to be one clang after another. What about this?
But then the
No,
dunk contest.
You have to shoot opposite-handed.
Yeah, I actually wouldn't hate that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't hate that. I've seen Steph shoot lefty.
Yeah.
Steph would win a shooting contest.
He probably would, but it would be a skill that he has that
It
he
would
really
be.
hasn't been able to demonstrate.
What I don't understand.
LeBron has a left hand.
What I don't understand about
He
why
is
these-
left-handed.
These
Or,
guys.
I'm sorry, right.
Why
hand.
is
He
it that
can
the
go-
guys don't play hard? If they have nothing to lose, they have guaranteed contracts. It's not like it's football.
I think it's because they don't have anything to play for.
Yeah.
They look at it as
it's just not. What about the pride of wanting to?
You're talking about All-Star Weekend or just in general?
no. I think you're talking about the All-Star
I'm talking
game, right?
specific. That's a bigger story, but topic. But no, but specifically in the All-Star game, why have guys stopped caring about playing defense?
Well, it's a joke. They just all they're interested in is scoring points and putting on a show. It's alley-oops, it's tosses, it's every crazy thing. It's really not a watchable
I
game.
kind of feel like, and maybe this is wrong. I don't know, Jason. You know better than me, and Mike, you're around the players, but I do feel like that Adam Silver has bent over backwards to support players more than any commissioner probably in the history of sports, or at least the sports that I follow.
I don't know. He's trying to crack down on this whole idea of, load management and.
Yeah, well, but the teams want that too. It's not just the players.
I know, but it's directly against the players' wishes.
Right.
Like the players want to play 60 games a year.
Yeah, well, I just feel like he's been so good to the players, and sometimes they don't do him a solid. Like
I said that last year coming off All-Star Weekend, that there's so much that goes into this. Number one, it goes back, I've talked about this before on the show, it goes back to when David Stern and Jerry Colangelo sort of crammed this rule change down everyone's throat, going back to the Allen Iverson days when the score was 92-88 in the NBA Finals, and they changed the way you could guard defensively, and they changed all these rules. They opened up the floor, and they increased scoring. I think it's just exacerbated, and it's a snowball that's continued to roll downhill. Yeah. And there is the player empowerment effect that, this is what you get. When you give these guys total control of everything, this is what you get. And, there's a much larger conversation here that I was having a conversation a couple weeks ago with someone who works in the league, a front office guy who said, tell me the next American-born MVP.
That's a big conversation.
American basketball is broken.
Yep.
And wait until you see what happens at the Olympics in 4 years when the U.S. gets embarrassed.
Will they?
France and,
Spain.
Look who carried them this year. LeBron and KD ain't coming back.
France, you got
France. Yeah, and Kenny knows the French better than anybody because he coached them.
Wagner's, Wembanyama.
So, Mike, you and I had this conversation, I think.
I mentioned the.
So how has that happened? What I'm wondering is how that's happened, because obviously when basketball.
I was talking to the guy I was talking to said the NBA needs to follow soccer and do what soccer did, because AAU coaches are horrendous.
You mean like U17s?
Well, they come in and they certify the coaches, because there's no certification, right? Anybody can coach in AAU now. And the guy I was talking to said, you got coaches that are on their cell phone during games. They're not watching what's going on. And this AAU climate has totally destroyed the NBA, where if the NBA would come in and take over the youth programs like soccer does, and it's you have to be certified to be a coach, and they sort of at the U13 level, U12 level, all the way up, then you can sort of salvage this and bring this back around.
In a way that you're talking about, like building on the fundamentals more, because that's what I feel is washed out of the American. Like, we have plenty of individual talent. The problem is they look like ball. They look like he's a fine player to watch, but are you going to win with him?
I think that's why more people are watching women's basketball too, because
it's more fundamentally
sound game.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to argue that men's basketball isn't more talented, but the men's players are more talented. We know that.
They're more athletic and all that.
People want to see, obviously, Caitlin Clark is the biggest reason why.
Yeah.
But some of it, now that they've watched it because of Caitlin Clark, like the other day, I was just watching random college basketball, and I was going from game to game to see, because there was no favorite
that's
team.
really tough to do.
And then I stopped at a women's game, and I was like, this is a little more interesting than the men's game.
Yeah, I've done that too, flipped around to the college games.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, I haven't watched a ton of college. I've probably watched less college basketball this year than any point in my life. But when I do check it out, I don't even recognize what I'm looking at. One of the games I watched, there were like 9 straight possessions where there were bad shot misses. Like, they weren't even good shots. No one was working to get a good shot. They were just chucking up threes. And it looked like I couldn't watch it. The other thing that, as we look at international ball passing what's happening here, I feel like the transition has already happened, where it's no longer the thoroughbred athletes. It's the guys with the fundamental building blocks, they have a lot of different things to their game. That's it. Yeah. He's the poster child of what's going on.
And
Luka.
And
there's more of them coming.
I'll tell you another thing I don't like, and I see it even in Little League to some degree. I don't allow it on my team, but I see some of this. But this is, every time you see a video, if you're on Instagram and scrolling, and you see an AAU video, all these videos are about like one kid trying to humiliate another kid by dunking in his face, and people like celebrate that stuff. I don't understand that.
I know. I think
Basketball's
that's
really
I think
a lot
that's part
about that, Mike.
I think that's part of the
bothers me.
culture.
Listen, if I
now.
dunked on somebody, I would celebrate too. I'm not gonna lie. If I dunked on, I would.
But you know
celebrate.
what? That's fine. You're an adult. So some 13-year-old kid who's an amazing athlete dunks, and he's like in the face of another 13-year-old kid. Where are the adults? I don't blame the kids.
Yeah.
Where are the adults here saying this is ridiculous behavior?
That's the thing. You're right.
Speaking of adults, real quick before
Yeah.
we pivot over to the Browns, on the West, we mentioned the East starters. These are the West starters. You're going to see a lot of, or 2 international names and 3 names that beat the internationals in the Olympics. SGA and Jokic will be joined by Curry, Durant, and LeBron James, who made his 21st straight
amazing.
All-Star game.
By the way,
LeBron
is
has
SGA
just
an American, Mike? Sorry.
No.
Canadian.
No.
Canadian.
He's not
okay.
Canadian.
Yeah, all right.
LeBron, if you just take his All-Star resume, is a legal adult and has every privilege that a regular American would have because it's 21 straight years. I don't know where that ranks on the list of accomplishments, but
No one's ever
But
been
does he
named to more
deserve it at this
consecutive.
point? Does he deserve to
Incredible.
be an all-star?
I think he does.
All-Star,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Starter, no.
No, okay, but he deserved to still be an all-star, which is
Yes.
just mind-blowing at 40 years old.
It's unreal that
Yeah.
he's done it at that level, both
Yeah.
as a teenager and into his 40s.
Yep. Yeah.
We really I don't know that there's an equivalent for that. Tom Brady in the NFL wasn't Tom Brady until he was 24, and then he did it well into his 40s. That was impressive, but
Plus-
to do it as a teenager and as a 40-year-old,
Well, and to just throw in more on that, Tom Brady had zero pressure in the NFL, zero.
none. No,
Whereas
6th
LeBron
round draft.
James had more pressure than any player maybe ever.
Well, I think
in
the
any
most
sport.
impressive thing about LeBron James
Yeah.
is that
Yeah.
he was on the cover as a high school
Yeah.
junior or whatever it was when
Yeah.
when they anointed him
The
the
chosen
king.
one.
The chosen
On
one.
the cover of SI, the
and
chosen
and
one.
so I think there's more instances of guys that completely fail and fold under that kind of
No
pressure.
doubt.
Because there's not many that have that kind of pressure.